Today is one of the most important videos of this whole challenge, so please watch and rewatch, and you will have access to this challenge for the rest of your life. So watch as many times as you need to get it, because I promise you, as much as we make healthy eating complicated in our brains, probably because everyone's saying something else, what we talked about in video 1, there's a lot of noise. I want you to just break it down into what we're going to talk about today. Building a plate can be so easy, especially when you understand the basics of macronutrients. And so I think we're gonna start with that. On this counter here is basically my kitchen table and all my essentials that I have to have in my day-to-day life. And so we have fats on the left, your left, my right. We have vegetables, we have proteins, and then we have carbs. There's really only 3 macros outside of water: carbs, proteins, and fats. You can count macros. We talk about this in version 1 and version 2. Going to MyFitnessPal, logging food, seeing exactly what your percentages are on the pie chart scale. All of that can be really beneficial to some, but I also think it's very unsustainable. I am somebody that on day 2 of logging my MyFitnessPal, I want to throw my phone, which happens more often than not already. So I think that with tracking, I want you to understand you don't have to track in order to see results. There's 2 ways that you can lose weight. There's a New York Times great article that did this side-by-side long-term study that took low-carb and high-fat dieters and high-carb, low-fat dieters, which is always the dogma. All of us have heard that eating fat is bad at some point in our life, and that's finally changing. But there was a study that said, which one's better? Eating low-carb and higher fat, or eating high carb and lower fat? That kind of typical nutritional fact, that pyramid scheme where it says eat all your carbs, all your grains, and limit your fat intake. And the study basically said the one that somebody can adhere to is the one that's going to work. So it doesn't matter which one you do as long as you're consistent. But the catch is that this is not a sustainable diet. Low fat cannot be sustainable because your body, your hormones, and your brain, and your flavor, everything, imagine having a diet without fat. I've done this before. It is miserable. You're like measuring 1 teaspoon of coconut oil and like 1 sliver of avocado, and 2 hours later you're starving and you're grumpy and you're irritable. That is not a diet that I want anybody to adhere to, because they're not going to. You say, no, 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 I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that, I can't have that. And then you're gonna crash and burn. So it's exactly what so many of us struggle with, is we think we're the problem, saying that we can't adhere to a diet, but what if it's the diet that's the problem? So that's when I switched completely, and I truly believe the best diet that can be something sustainable is one with good high quality fats at every single meal. It's gonna control your blood sugar, it's gonna make your brain think really clearly, and it's also gonna fill you up so you're not gonna be starving 2 hours later and then binge on French fries and pizza at night. And so that's the concept of this, is that of course you can do low fat and maybe see results, but this is the way to do a high fat diet based on your workouts that can allow you to enjoy your life and not have to count calories or count your macros. So we're gonna start always, number 1, with vegetables. When it comes to carbs, I truly believe that vegetables shouldn't count. I mean, there's some carbs that are a little bit higher, like carrots and peppers, but people that count carbs, veggies for carbs, I think are ludicrous. Our body needs so many varieties of vegetables in our life day to day. We should have at least 20 in a week, 20 different types of vegetables. I tend to stick with arugula, so I have a lot of work to do. We all do, but mixed vegetables you can do. I really like blends of sauerkrauts that you can add into food, also a probiotic, which we'll talk about, canned beets, etc. Cucumbers, sliced cucumbers, peppers, just as many vegetables as you can get every single meal. And I know that might be weird for people that aren't used to eating breakfast with veggies, but if you sauteed this with some oil and eggs, I promise you it's delicious. So every single meal, hopefully 3 meals a day. I don't do multiple meals. 3 meals has a big pile of veggies in some way, sauteed, chopped, or just like a salad. The second thing that you have to do is focus on your protein. So this is all the protein that I have that I love. I use eggs, sometimes in a pinch, deli meat, deli turkey, deli chicken can be good. It's not always ideal for Processed foods, obviously not always ideal, but can be really good in a pinch. I love ground lamb, which is also what we'll talk about, really good for a fat source. Sausages, well-sourced sausages, chicken, protein powders, beef jerkies. I love Epic. What is your protein source? Every single meal that you have, you should have at least 25 grams of protein. There's other proteins I don't have, like canned tuna, salmon, fish, etc. But for example, if you wanted just eggs, that would be 3 eggs, because that's 21 grams of protein. If you wanted chicken, that would be at least 4 to 5 ounces of chicken. If you wanted it to be a smoothie, you're adding greens into your smoothie, it would be a scoop of protein. So where is my protein at every single meal? I didn't really plan this in advance, so we're gonna plop the protein on. Protein tends to also have some fats. And so we're gonna move to macro number 2, fats. Fats are what are gonna fill you up. If you are hungry 2 hours later, it's because you didn't have enough fat. And this is something you're gonna have to learn on your own, because some of us digest fat a little bit better. We're new to this high fat diet. I always have at least 3 tablespoons of fat. So that could be half an avocado and then maybe olive oil on top of the whole thing. It could be maybe I swapped for lamb. Lamb has more fat. Lamb and avocado, and I definitely hit my fat source. You will know if it's, like, fat is kind of hard to digest sometimes. It takes a longer time to digest. So if you can't finish your meal and you feel really heavy, then you hit your fat content. Don't feel like you have to finish your food, but if you didn't eat enough fat, you will know about 2 hours later, and you can adjust your next meal accordingly. Then we're gonna say, all right, so we got our fats, we got our veggies, we have to have some sort of carb. I do not think long-term keto is the answer. I think it's really good in therapeutic doses. Keto is basically 10 grams of carbs throughout the whole day, and that's ridiculously low. So I think that carbs, when it comes to things like rice, or bean pasta, or beans and lentils, or things like cassava flour, which is gluten-free tortillas that I'm obsessed with, sweet potatoes, and of course some gluten-free bread. All of these are dependent on how active you are. So if I have just woken up and I'm not gonna work out that day, then this could be perfect. I would add my extra fat source. Maybe I'm like, okay, that will fill me up, some nuts and seeds, and I'm good. But if I'm gonna work out, or if I'm more active, or if I have stress issues or a high stress job, then I'm gonna add my carbs. I try to stick with carbs around the workout, which is what we'll talk about in a separate video, because this is already way too long. But what I want you to focus on is, as soon as I have too much carb, I'm going to spike my insulin, I'm going to spike my blood sugar, and that's gonna cause this up and down roller coaster ride that we just don't wanna be on anymore, because it actually makes us store body fat. And so what I try to say is lower carb in the morning, unless you're working out in the morning, and then increase your carbs at lunch, maybe have your workout before you go to dinner, have some carbs at dinner, and then you're good. But we'll talk more about that in a different video. What I will say, the last piece, is if I'm gonna eat a shit ton of sweet potatoes, I will not see results if I also have a lot of fat. So maybe I'll swap my high-fat sausage for a leaner chicken and have my avocado. Nobody should have this much sweet potato, by the way. There we go. But again, if I want rice and sweet potato, there should be no fat in this meal. And nobody should be eating this, because this is all carb and it will make you starving in maybe an hour. Everyone knows what it's like to have sushi, right? You have sushi and you're just miserable because 2 hours later you're starving again. So I think it's just figuring out, again, where are my veggies? All the veggies, preferably probiotic veggies if you can. 2, where is my protein? Do I have 25 grams of protein in this meal? If not, things are gonna start to fall apart and I'm not gonna see the muscle that I wanna see. 3, where's my fat source? This is what fills me up. And if I'm working out, let's add some carbs. And the calories you can use, give or take, about 1,800 for women, 2,200 for men. The more active you are, that goes up. This is not a low-calorie diet. This is a real food diet. It's gonna balance your hormones. It's gonna control blood sugar. It's gonna lower inflammation. And all of a sudden, we no longer have to track our calories and our movement and every single macronutrient that we eat in order to see the results we want. Please let me know what you think of the video today. I hope it is really helpful. Remember, just basics: veggies, protein, carbs, fats. If you have too many carbs, drop the fat. If you have too much fat, drop the carbs, and your body will learn and tell you if you're missing one or missing the other. For example, if you had too many carbs, you're gonna get tired after you eat them. So super simple signals that your body will finally tell you when you start to listen. I hope this is helpful. Please tell me what you think below. I'll see you tomorrow.